You're welcome back. Now, you'll remember several weeks ago when the roadmap was launched for the return to small-scale mining. We spoke to the Secretary of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining to learn about what government planned to do in that scheduled process to make sure that small-scale mining can be done legally here in Ghana without its negative effects. Today we're able to pick up that conversation again because tomorrow the policy on small-scale mining will be launched. Our guest to help us understand once again is the Secretary of the Committee, the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Mr. Charles Cromwell Nanabingin Uniawonto Bisu. That's quite a mouthful. But of course, Charles, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
So we're getting close. We're getting
close.
We are. Tomorrow we'll see the launch.
Exactly.
Now, tell us in broad strokes, this policy is to cover exactly what aspect of mining activity?
Okay, thank you. When the ban was placed on small-scale mining, what the president sought to do was that to sanitize the sector and also regularize it and then actually come out with reforms, because we've been mining in this country from time immemorial, and the psychology of those who mine was that they had a right to actually get out of their houses, go out there, and then once they see gold, mine it out and then sell it. But then the law is that any mineral beneath the surface of the earth belongs to the state. And so if my grandfather had been doing it for years and not paid taxes and not been sanctioned for actually destroying the environment, then I have the right to do it. So then you have to change that psychology from that person being responsible for what they've done. So the president actually came out, it was in the party's manifesto, MPP's manifesto, that we would restructure the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. Now, within that, we're given 3 operative words. 1, to sanitize, regularize, and the reforms. I think we spoke sometime in September, and then I mentioned that there was a roadmap towards the lifting of the ban. But if you read the roadmap, within the roadmap, we had conditioned precedents to lifting the ban. One of the conditioned precedents was that was the vetting, where we had to screen all the licenses, because previously we could not actually relate a certain license to a concession somewhere, and the whole system was in a mess. And so we meticulously went through it and ensured that each license belongs to a certain concession somewhere, and there's a certain owner behind it. Now, after we've done that, we have the data. Now we know where all the concessions are, 907. We're looking for 1,350 licenses. Out of that, 907 came forward. We've been able to relate some of them to the owners, because previously the illegality is being performed on the concession, whereas the owner of the concession lives in Accra. Now, we need to lift the corporate bill. We need to know who is responsible for whatever we've done. So having the data is important. Now, we're introducing reforms, but then the ban cannot be on in perpetuity. There has to be a framework within which we are all going to work. So the president, within the roadmap, which was actually approved by cabinet, said, now you've done that, now you need to actually come out with a policy framework within which everybody is going to work. So tomorrow, the Interministerial Committee, with all the ministers and all the people that matter within the mining sector, the Small Scale Miners Association, those who are trained on how to mine responsibly, the drone pilots that we've trained and all that, are all coming together. So we showcase what we've done to Ghanaians and the way forward. So that's what we're doing tomorrow.
Okay. And the ban is to be lifted when?
No, that is not within my remit.
Right.
The committee would come out, because as the secretary, I've only been asked to communicate what is going to be done tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Very good.
So
now,
if within that, if the ban is lifted, then that's the prerogative of the president.
Now, this week you were in the Ashanti region, and the committee went and had a look at some of the activity going on there. And we all heard about this report that Erastus Asare-Donko put together. I mean, you were on the ground. Tell us, what was your experience of what you saw?
Okay, personally, I wasn't there. So if you say the committee,
yes.
then it's an entity that was there. And thanks to JoyNews for helping us do that, because you are the fourth estate of the realm. And I've always said that the media have a pivotal role to play in the fight against the illegal mining menace. We have a small team that was actually sanctioned from the Jubilee House to actually, because it's more like the who is watching the watchman. If I'm being monitored by somebody, so is somebody being monitored by anybody. So we need to be each other's keeper and then supervise each other. So that team has been actually going around, sweeping concessions and all that. And the reason why we were able to find out what was happening there was because of the data we had now. Previously, we did not know where we cannot actually identify a legal concession from an illegal one. Now we have it. So if our team goes out there, they can actually tell that this is a legal concession or not. Within the stroke of the Galam stop, you can actually key that into it and say this is an illegal concession. That is how come they stroke. I think JoyNews spoke to the team and they invited themselves and then they went there. And about 30 excavators were found. And the committee and the president wants to deal with this matter. Even though the Chinese are in there, we do not want to trigger an international rift. But then the rule of law must prevail.
So there were Chinese people running this.
About
this
16 of them, and I hear there's a Ghanaian behind them. So they're collaborators. The law is such that, like I said, nobody is above the rule of law. I've heard that they had a prospecting license, but within the prospecting period, which is 2 years, you're not supposed to mine. So what were the excavators doing there? About 30, 50 of them, diesel, fuel and all that. When you're prospecting, to the best of my knowledge and with the limited time that I've actually worked in this sector, I know that with prospecting, you drill down. You don't actually disturb the earth by actually, digging in droves and all that. So we're looking into it. But then the Chinese were brought to Accra, handed over to the police. I hear that people are saying that they came to the ministerial committee and monies were paid. No, they've been handed over to the police and immigration and it's being dealt with.
Has the Ghanaian behind it been identified and arrested as well?
Yes, they were arrested in given to Obuasi police, but the crime occurred in a certain district, Bekwai. So they're taken to Bekwai police station and they're being investigated.
Right. Now, this was happening in a forest reserve.
Yep.
The prospecting license granted, when was the prospecting license granted to these individuals?
You see, the prospecting license that they've shown to us, we're still investigating the matter. I'm not sure if it's a correct one. I'm not sure because the owners of the company was subject to the team saying that they have a prospecting license. In this day and age, anybody can put anything together. We've had fake news and all that, but we need to authenticate it first because we have about 47 forest reserves, and the mandate of the Interministerial Committee is to preserve these forest reserves, and that's what we're doing. So I would, personally look into it, and I've been actually mandated to actually investigate.
What has the Forestry Commission said? It's obviously their mandate to ensure that these reserves are protected. How can this mining have been going on there for so long without their knowledge?
That's the question. You see, the problems was that one of the mandates of the Interministerial Committee was basically to ensure that these agencies had been strengthened. Over the years, they were actually set up by law, but have they been following the law? Have they been following the mandates that they were doing? And it calls for leadership. Maybe somebody wasn't actually supervising, because if you're a president of a country and the chief executives, whereas the ministries are your departments and sub-departments and all that, so it's your responsibility to actually drill it down and ensure that you get something good out of it. I remember President Mahama saying that he formed an interministerial committee, but it did not work. But here is a leader who's formed an interministerial committee, built a secretariat for it, and ensure that we have data of all the miners in this country. Issuance of ID cards, which is part of the reforms. They have a tax identification number and all that. So maybe in the next budget, we can actually put our finger on something and say, this is how much we've accrued from small-scale mining, and that's how much a percentage of the environment that we've saved and all that. In any case, you see, when the ban was placed, people were saying that the economy is being affected. I beg to differ. Yes, there's inflation. That money that was actually coming out of the mining sector, the small-scale mining sector, you dig the gold illegal, you accrue it. It's like buying drugs with counterfeit money. You dig the gold out, which is illegal, and then you sell it to somebody. Is the money recorded officially? No, I don't think so. So the money revolves in the economy, and it's more money chasing fewer goods because the Bank of Ghana or the economy hasn't even recognized that money. And whereas the gold is sold to foreigners, and they take the money out, and there's money laundering and all that through that. And when the money goes out to the account, it doesn't come back. So rather, there was a problem there. So, and then also about crime. When the ban was placed, people were saying that there's a lot of armed robbers in the small-scale mining sector, and so they are going to come into the town and then actually rob us. But the crime rate has gone down. And Operation Vanguard has seized about hundreds of ammunitions from there. So it means that, for me, it means that the small-scale mining sector or illegal mining sector was actually breeding criminals. That's how I see it. So it's the reverse for me. So I believe that once we have the data, and if you're saying there are a lot of criminals there, and they're going to have an ID card, then through this we are actually going to, curb crime.
You've highlighted yet another reason why what we discovered in Kumasi is problematic. You know, because you're trying to do all this and you know, stem the tide of crime and all its you know, associated vices, and here you have people, you know, in the center of this forest reserve, you know, doing what they ought not be doing. After this same site was this, you know, source of controversy earlier when we had the head of the Forestry Commission, Sir John, you know, going there to declare that there was no illegal mining going on. You would have thought that would have been one of the few centers where scrutiny would not be sacrificed. So is the interministerial committee going to launch any kind of investigation into this, or will some other institution investigate this to find out how this
yes,
to be?
It's been triggered. The president we informed him a few days ago, and he's actually asked us to investigate that, and it's being dealt with.
So your committee will be investigating?
No, not the committee. You see, it's a team of ministers. So how the committee operates is that you have 10 ministers there, and at every point in time, each ministry has something to do. So within it, we have interior and defense. Under interior, we have immigration and police. So it's been handed over to that unit within the committee to deal with it, and then revert.
So it's now a police investigation?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay. Yes. And so this individual, the Ghanaian individual behind it, he's the one who is claiming to have had those prospecting permits and so forth?
Yes.
Right.
Because we've been to, I think a year ago, when we were piloting the drones, the president sent us out through the committee to actually pilot these drones before we actually bring them into the system. We went to a few forest reserves, and the same thing was happening there, and it was dealt with. And then later on, so it means that even the community involvement is there, because that village that we went to, I went with a team, and luckily we went with some military men. It was a narrow road into where the forest reserve is, and when we got there, I think the youth or some of the guys did not know that we came with the military men, and they came with a pickup with guns and all that. Okay, so now we came back. It means that we're not resting. We came back and actually planned carefully, and then went there, and we had about 30 to 40 pump action guns, and MI military gun, MI-16 gun with a Chinese having ammunition in your own country. So it's a case of a mercenary coming into your country through the small-scale mining sector. And
but how is this possible? How can the Chinese bring guns into Ghana?
I think they'll bring it through you and I, our own brothers and sisters, who do not care about this country, who do not think of the future of this country, and would not share in the vision of the next generation that they have to lead. Posterity is going to judge them, because if the president has even put his presidency on the line to deal with this matter, and the president has said that I am fighting for the next generation, within which the next election is a domino effect, because you do the right thing. If you have a vision, you do the right thing, and then the rest follows. And then you sit somewhere in your community and you think you have to accrue or actually make money, and so you bring in foreigners. It's more like human trafficking to me. Then somebody will sit in his house and say, I'm poor, I do not have money, so I have a small rickety car, so I'm going to paint the sides yellow and then just hit the street and then start driving a taxi. That's not the rules that we must conform to. So I think the law within the reforms.
You are saying that Ghanaians coming from China bring these guns in?
No.
For
I'm saying
the Chinese?
If the Chinese gets to the airport, he's not holding the gun, is he? There's somebody out within here who is an insider who is going to do that. And I think the reforms coming out, we need to actually drive at these people and weed them out.
So you're talking about immigration services and ports and
the
harbors
security agencies, but then I can't even say place a finger on it. All I'm saying is that we are Ghanaians in a certain country. This is our jurisdiction. So if a foreigner is coming in and then he comes in through the airport without a gun, I wouldn't say the gun actually came in through the airport. It is somebody within the country who's actually facilitating that, because you must know somebody within before you can do that. That's what I'm saying. If you're Ghanaian and you do that, if the foreigner is jailed given a 10-year jail sentence, you should have about 50 years. That's what I think.
Right. Now, to wrap up on this whole Kumasi thing, you're saying that you don't believe that the permits the guy is showing are genuine. You think
I'm saying I have to see the proper document and all that. Something that was sent through the WhatsApp, I cannot authenticate it. I need to see a proper document before I can actually speak on it.
Right, but you have a suspicion that it might not be genuine.
I have a suspicion that something fishy is going on. It could be, even if it's a genuine license, then with prospecting 2 years, you're not supposed to mine. So why were you mining? So you've actually flouted the law straight away.
But are we even giving prospecting licenses while there's a ban on small-scale mining?
No, the ban, you see, within the small-scale mining sector, you don't do prospecting. There are levels of licenses. Small-scale mining, you get the license, EP and all that, and then you get operating license, and then you get digging license, then you start digging. That was a large scale. Anything beyond 25 acre is large scale.
Right.
Now, when the ban came in, most of our people, Ghanaians, have moved upstairs. If I say upstairs, they've gone into the large scale realm.
Right.
Because they thought that there was no ban on large scale. But no, the committee's work is illegal mining. Now, the large scale, we have the Anglo Gold and other mines which are properly regulated.
Right.
Now, again, the large scale, so there's a definition. That's why the reforms are coming now. The definition of a large scale is anything, maybe 26 acre can be a large scale. But then with the large scale, you need to post a bond. That's where you get the prospecting license. So you get the prospecting license within 2 years, after which you get mining lease and all that. There's so many levels of licenses. So what our Ghanaian brothers and sisters do is that they try and acquire large scale, bring the foreigners in, because foreigners can also work within the large scale sector. And then they go out and mine. So that's how it is. But then most of them, which is going to come out tomorrow, is that they do not even post the bond. They get a license from Minerals Commission, and then straight away they're mining. They haven't even been to EPA for the license. So that's why we've brought in the Galam stop, which is a synergy, so that once it triggers from Minerals Commission, we know what is happening. So, and our team comes there, they scan a barcode, and they realize that, it tells them the information pertaining to that concession or license.
Let's talk about tomorrow. Committee has done so much work. Finally, we have a policy. It's coming out. What's in it?
What's in it? If I say everything that is in it, then it means tomorrow doesn't come in.
Don't tell us everything, but some headlines will be useful.
Okay, yeah, it's the reforms. We're going to outdoor what we've done, showcase it to Ghanaians, and then this policy framework comes out, the reforms that we all need to do. And I think knowledge is power. So once we put it out there, because I even did not know a legal concession from an illegal one. Now I know. So I believe that and information is not persuasive, you need to communicate with people. So we're going to communicate with Ghanaians and say, this is where we are, that's the way we're going. So that when together we all, in one country, protect our environment, and then taxes are paid and all that for the development of the nation. So that's what's happening to us.
Was there consultation in forming these policies? Did you speak with these miners? And who were the stakeholders that you consulted?
You see, people are misconstruing the word policy. Policy shouldn't be a document. A policy can be a statement, right? It's like the free SHS. It's a policy framework within which we are working. That is how come we got to a point that the double tracking came in. But the double tracking was not in the documented, just like the British unwritten constitution. As in when you're going out, you actually evolving and all that. So the policy framework, if you're saying a policy framework, then I'll go through the roadmap. Because the roadmap said there's a condition precedent and then there's a way forward. So if it's the way forward, this is where we are now. So we are coming out to say this is the policy that we're actually outdoing to. This is the framework that we're going. So it shouldn't. People are saying that there should be a big document that you open page 1 to no. Even the placing the ban on small scale mining was a policy.
Yeah.
A policy to stop something and a policy to give us a direction.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a policy to give us direction within which we have a framework that we're all going to be adhering to.
So again, my question was, I mean, were there stakeholders consulted in the?
Yeah, the stakeholders were consulted in the roadmap. The Small Scale Miners Association, Minerals Commission, EPA, all of them. A committee was formed.
Right.
We were called to a meeting at the Chief of Staff office with all the heads of agencies, and then we came together and put that forward. So I thought for me, the consultation was that unless, of course, an individual wants to be consulted, and I wouldn't want individuals taking this as their own, because the whole mining thing, one person can take a page of it, a document, and then start making money out of it in a certain country. I will not allow that, because what we've done here is a novelty. The insurance policy and all that. A country like Guyana, Ethiopia, and Malawi, they've invited me to come over there, but I told them that's Ghana's intellectual property. It must be protected. Let us do it here before we replicate it elsewhere. But people want to be consulted so that they get the document and say, I did it for Ghana and all that. You can't just do. So some people are being selfish about it. Let's have a focus and deal with the matter, because you can do that, but the environment keeps deteriorating. And in any case, if the document comes out and you think it's not to the best that you want, I would come forward, not in the media. I'll go and then speak to the government and say, I think this should be added. That's how we build a nation. But then if you go in the media and say, no, this is what's happening, no, it's one environment that we're all destroying. So I think we need to, work around it from that point of view.
And you are going to be receptive to suggestions and criticism, because we've seen in the past when government policy, like free SHS, like this recent drone issue, people have asked questions, raised issues, but government has been quite hard-lined in their, in sticking.
We have been receptive. That is why we are where we are now. Because the Small Scale Miners Association, they brought a few ideas that they have to have signage at the entry points of their concession. So the people, the stakeholders in there, yes, the media, you've done a great work, and as I said, you've been helping us. But I do not want an individual, like one journalist, coming to me and saying that, give me the policy for me to, no, we will not do that. We'll call, if it's GJA, we bring the whole GJA into it. If it's Media Coalition, we bring the whole team into it. And whatever we're doing, once the policy comes out, the media, you scrutinize it. And I don't see where a policy is coming out. Then we consult the media first. Then it means that we're all going to sing from the same hymn sheet. But you are there should be checks and balances, isn't it? So I think the policy comes out. Then if you have something to say, you can actually go back, because the whole thing about this country is the security of the nation. So if you're a journalist and you have something to say, there are things that you can say it in the public domain. You do not say it to actually gain popularity. You say because you're actually building a nation. You can actually, for the peace and tranquility of the station, go behind for nation, go behind the back doors, and then actually help. That is contributing, and you would be recognized from there. But if you go out there and then shout and say this is not right and all that, and then no, I don't think that's the way to build a
So your call to the media and to any stakeholder once the policy comes out is that if they have any suggestions, criticism, come to you personally rather than public discourse about it.
What I'm saying is that if you're going to do that, think about the peace, the security of the nation. There are certain things that you can say out there that would actually, but because you have the pen and paper and you can actually combine 26 alphabets and make it great, doesn't make you a great person. You can sometimes, the quietest person in a room must be the most sensible person. So there are ways of doing things. So I'm saying, if you want to comment on it, then you need to look at the repercussion. Is it going to affect the nation, or is it something that I want? This is why I'm doing it. Then it means that you're being selfish. But I'm not saying all that we are saying, we should all sing from the same hymn sheet. There are sometimes that you can criticize and then we backtrack and then say, no, this is wrong. And then the Ghanaian populace know. So then with that, we are actually bringing integrity into what we're doing. That's, my
I'm just checking that you do have an open door policy and are welcoming.
That's where we are now, because for people like the small scale miners, the illegal miners, they came to us, and most of them are Takwa. those who went there, I did not even know them. Maybe about 5% of them that I know personally, but I did not even know them. The small-scale miners were on board. A few people, so I mean, most people even walk in there and bring documentation, and then we take them. Take that on board. Last week, I think I was on your sister TV station on Adom with Baba Jamal, and he brought an idea. Quickly, I added it to what we're doing because it's not about me. Yeah. It's about the nation.
Indeed. Charles Cromwell, Nana Benin Uniawonto Bisu.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. We wish you the best of luck tomorrow. We'll be there, obviously, and we're there for the entire journey. Like you said, this is something of national value, not political value. And so we all want to put our hands together and get this done. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me
this morning. Now, Imani Africa says that they're still opposed to government's policy of using drones for medical supplies. The think tank has pointed out that the contract that Parliament just approved has actually expired, and has expired since October. We're going to hear from the team on the show today. We're going to be hearing from Franklin Kujo and Imani on the show today. So stay tuned. That's coming up right after this. Oh, actually, I'm told that we have Franklin on the line right now. Mr. Kujo, hello and good morning. Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Kujo? Right, let's fix that line and we'll come back to you with a conversation with Franklin Kujo right after these.